Welcome to Midnight Mule FPL. I'm Midnight Mule and this is the video for Game Week 20 for the 5% series where we look at the most popular players and I tell you what I think of them. And if you only choose the popular players, then I think you should finish in the top 5% globally, which means you'll do alright in your mini league. As always, we'll start by looking at how the players in the system did last week, which was Game Week 19. For the goalkeepers, Sales 6. And that's all. For the defenders, we had Trent 15, Hall 12, Aina 8, Robinson 4, 8 Nouri 10, Burn 7, Gvardiol 6, Virgil van Dijk 6, Lewis 6, Pedro Porro 4, Grieve 6, and that's all. For the midfielders, we have Salah 16, Rogers 11, Luis Diaz 9, and Mbeumo 7, Gordon 6, Dibbling 8, Semenyo 5. And for the forwards, we have Wood 12, Watkins 12, Raul 9, João Pedro 9, Isaac 7, Haaland 8, and that's all. So as you can see, a lot of the popular players scored quite well. And everyone I know who follows this system, they all got green arrows. I know a lot of managers got green arrows and it was quite easy to get a green arrow this week. But it's the popular players that you don't own that are going to hurt you. So all you need to do all right at FPL is try and own the popular players. We're now going to look at the players in the system and what I think of them for the coming game weeks. So we're going to look at the keepers, defenders, midfielders, forwards, and the order that I display them is their order of importance. So the earlier they are in the list, the more they're going to hurt you if you don't own them. So for keepers, Raya and Sales are the most important too. Now, I think by the time we get to this weekend, Sales may be slightly higher owned than Raya, but I think Raya's got more chance of getting more points. So Raya, I think, has got more potential to hurt you, but Sales is actually slightly higher owned, but it's very, very close between the two of them. But Sales is 0.8 cheaper. So if you had to get a new goalkeeper this week, maybe you're wild carding or you've got Fabianski and someone else who doesn't play, Sales is probably a slightly better pick now, but if the money's no issue, then I think Raya would be the better pick. Now for the players, I've got a red number next to them, and that's how much they would hurt you if you don't own them and they get 6 points. So if Raya gets 6 points and you don't own him, that's like minus 1.5. If Sales gets 6 points and you don't own him, that's minus 1.7. But in reality, the keepers really don't matter much. As long as you get a playing keeper out, that's kind of okay. You want to concentrate on the other 10 players. If the other 10 players are good and you got nothing else to do and a couple of free transfers, then you may want to switch around your keepers. But as long as you've got a keeper that's playing, you're kind of all right. Then Henderson would be the next most important. Then Pickford, who I personally really like. He's a lot of fun. And then Sanchez. And I've put Sanchez here as 6.2 million, which is clearly the wrong price. I think he's probably about 4.6. I'm guessing there, but he's certainly not 6.2. I've just typed that number in wrong, but I'm not changing it now. So any of these are okay. Personally, I wouldn't go for Henderson. I would be going Raya, Sales or Pickford, I think, if I was choosing a keeper. But any of these are okay. And if you don't own any of them, they're not going to hurt you too much unless it's Raya or Sales and they get like 10, 11, 12 points. And then the second page of keepers, we got Flecken, Martinez, who is a good keeper, and I think that could be a feisty game this weekend. So Villa at home to Leicester. So it's a Midlands derby, albeit East against West. But Martinez would be up against Vardy potentially, and they're both major wind-up merchants. So I think it could be a very funny game, especially if you're neutral. And then Fabianski, who we don't know if he's playing or not, potentially injured. But even if he was playing, he's away to Man City, so he's not going to get a clean sheet probably. And then Ward represents any 4 million keeper that's not even playing. So you could sell Fabianski, but you're not going to get much money for him. And if he's your second keeper, i.e. you've got another keeper who's playing, personally I'd suggest you just keep him. He'll probably be back in a couple of weeks. If you're wild carding, then you may not want Fabianski. You may want to get somebody else. We'll now look at the defenders. The most important two at the moment would be Trent, who I'm saying is a good player, and Gabriel. I almost marked him as green, but he's not quite making it for me at the moment. But they're both very good players. Most managers will own these two, and it's definitely worth owning these two if you can. So Trent, his route to points is clean sheets because Liverpool are doing well there, assists and the occasional goal. They're at home to Man United. United are really struggling at the moment and Liverpool are playing very well. So he's a very good defender to have. If you don't have him, then roughly half his points against you is what you're going to get. So if you score 6, that's like you get a -3. Gabriel's going to be, I think, not quite so highly owned as Trent this coming game week. But he is a good defender. He is worth having. And there's plenty of money in the system now because most people don't have Haaland. Most people should have sold Watkins. So you should have money. I wouldn't take a hit to get either of these in, but they're worth getting in if you can. Next two, we look at Robinson and Hall. Similar prices, 5 and 4.8. Hall is now, I think, come the weekend, going to be slightly higher owned than Robinson. But I think Robinson's got more potential over the next few weeks. He's got Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester, Man United. All those teams he could do well against. Whereas Hall's first game is away against Spurs. So in the immediate future, Robinson's possibly slightly better. If I had neither and I was going to buy one, I would actually buy Hall at the moment. Because I think long term he's going to be slightly better and he is slightly higher owned. And the next two defenders are Aina and Saliba. 5.2 million and 6.3. Now, Aina's probably got twice as many owners roughly as Saliba come this weekend by my prediction, around what I think your rank's likely to be. So Aina's going to do you more damage if you don't own him, and he's a bit cheaper. And if you've got Gabriel, you really don't need to own Saliba as well. So if your 5 defenders were Trent, Gabriel, Robinson, Hall and Aina, I'd say that's all right and it's not too expensive. And you're always going to have at least 3 good defenders to play. And the less important defenders, we have Gvardiol. So he managed to get a clean sheet last game week, but he's often very close, it seems, to getting an assist or a goal. At home to West Ham this game week, then he's got Brentford, then Ipswich. I'd say it's not worth bringing him in, but if you've got him, he's absolutely fine to hold. Then Virgil van Dijk, not quite as popular as Gvardiol. And most managers are going to try and get Trent. If you've got Virgil, I don't feel like you've got a user transfer getting in Trent. But Trent has a slightly higher chance of getting the points. And Pedro Porro's dropping in popularity. I definitely wouldn't bring him in. But if you've got him and you want to keep him, that's okay. He might sometimes get points. But I think you should be reckoning you want to be moving him on at some point. And then Aiton Nouri, he got massively dumped, but in the last 2 or 3 weeks, he's actually done all right. I think he got 10 points last game week. I've got no plans of bringing him in. He's got Forest and Newcastle, Chelsea, Arsenal. That could definitely be 4 non-clean sheets there. So he would only be getting points if he was getting an assist or a goal. And then Burn, 4.4. But if you're a Newcastle defender, you're better off trying to get a little bit more and getting Lewis Hall. And here we have Rico Lewis. He's not very popular either at the moment. He used to be popular, which is why he's in the system. But if he gets 6 points and you don't own him, that's like minus 0.3 against you. So he has to score 20 points for you to get a -1. So he's really not important if you don't have Lewis. And most of you won't have Lewis. It really doesn't matter. If you do have him, that's all right. He's nice and cheap. He may sometimes get an attacking return or a clean sheet. And then some defenders that used to be popular, but they're really not going to hurt your rank now if you don't own them. Konza at 4.4. Totally wouldn't be buying him, but if you've got him, that's all right. Home to Leicester this game week, he may get something there. Mikalenko's bench fodder. Greaves is bench fodder, but he's only 3.9. So if you're looking to save a bit of money, he might be worth getting because that extra 0.1 you can save on him might be worth it. Harwood Bellis, 4.1. He's just bench fodder. And then Mazraoui, I totally wouldn't be buying him at the moment, but he's in the system because he used to be popular. 4.5 million, there are better things to be doing with your money, but next game week at home to Southampton, there's a remote chance United may keep a clean sheet there. Southampton do have a new manager recently, so they may be doing better than normal, and United are pretty rubbish at the moment. But you might get a clean sheet, so if you got him, you don't have to sell him. If you haven't got him, definitely don't buy him. And then Wout Fast, he may be injured, but he's 4 million bench fodder. I've marked him as don't buy because he may not be playing. And now for the midfielders. Salah, Palmer, Gordon and Bremo. These are the four most important. Everyone owns Salah, so to protect your rank, you have to own Salah. Palmer, most people own Palmer, so you really want to be getting Palmer in if you can. If Palmer scores 6 points, you don't own him. That's like getting minus 5.5. Now, as predicted, Gordon has massively grown in popularity. He's now the third, by my reckoning, most important defender. More people at your rank will currently own Mbeumo come the weekend, but I think Gordon's got the better chance over the next few weeks of getting more points. So if you're wanting to get Gordon or Mbeumo, and you're only going to get him one, I think Gordon's probably the better choice at the moment. But for every 6 points Gordon gets, I reckon that's minus 2.3 against you if you don't own him. So remember, the way the system works is it's about trying to protect your score, and you do that by getting in the popular players that are likely to do all right. So if you had these first four midfielders and they're your midfield, that would be a pretty safe midfield. So Luis Diaz is growing in popularity, but he's not massively owned, and he's always a bit of a minutes risk. You don't know if he's going to get no minutes or 70 minutes. Remote chance he may come off the bench, but when he plays, especially when he starts, he is a very good player to own. Rodgers, don't go buying him because he's suspended this game week, but if you've got him and you've got other players that will play this week, he's absolutely fine to hold. And then Ahmad did grow in popularity, but then he's been doing nothing last 2 or 3 game weeks. He's massively now dropping in popularity. You don't need to sell him, but he's absolutely not a threat to your rank. So the only midfielders you need to fear for this game week are the four at the top that happen to be in green. For the less important midfielders, Semenyo, 5.6, home to Everton. I personally wouldn't be buying him. If you've got him, he's fine to keep this game week. But after this, if he does nothing, you may want to move him on. Enzo's got very good XGI, so he's got a good chance every game week, it seems, of getting points. But I think the last 3 games, he's maybe got nothing. He's in my team. I intend to be keeping him at least for this game week and possibly beyond that. He's only 5.1 million. But if you've not got him, there's no need to buy him. He's not going to hurt your rank. So Fernandes, he's lowly owned at the moment. He got massively dumped because he was suspended for last game week, and he's got Liverpool away this game week. But after that, he's got Southampton, Brighton, Fulham. He could well get returns in each of those. So I'd say if you don't got Fernandes, you don't need to buy him this game week. If you want to get him next game week, that's perfectly sound. He may start getting points. He is quite expensive though, at 8.3. And at the moment, Gordon and Mbeumo are both cheaper than that. And they're both going to do you a lot more damage if you don't own them, and they do well. But if you like Bruno, he is a good player. Son's a good player. I know he missed a penalty and he got no points last game week. He is a good player. I totally wouldn't go buying him though because he's lowly owned and he's expensive at 9.9. I'd rather do something with the money. But if you've got him and you like him, that's all right. Dibbling's an excellent player, and I've got him down as bench fodder because he's only 4.5 million. But if any game week you had to play him because you're short of players, that's fine. He's really, really good. The only downside is he plays for Southampton, and they're not really good. Winks, that could be any 4.5 million midfielder, just sits on your bench most of the time. And then Bowen, I'd say if you've got him now, sell him. He's got a hurty foot. He could be out until next month. So it could be 4, maybe 5 game weeks he's going to miss. And he's 7.5 million. So you could definitely be doing something decent with that money. Even if it was just moving him to maybe Gordon or Mbeumo if you wanted to. That'd be something better than keeping Bowen. And for the forwards, Isak, very popular. Many managers own him. You definitely want to get him if you can. If you don't own him and he does well, it's going to hurt your rank. Wood, I reckon by this weekend, more than half the managers around your rank are going to own him. And he just keeps ticking along, which means every week he's like -3, -4 against you if you don't own him. So he's a nice, easy one to put in your team. Not too expensive, 6.7 at the moment. And he can just sit there and protect you a bit. So Jackson's a very good player, but he's 8.2 million. And now my reckoning is he's only going to hurt you by -0.9 for every 6 points he gets. So if you've got him, that's great. You absolutely don't need to sell him to buy Wood, but if you wanted to, it would free up a little bit of money, and Wood is going to hurt you more than Jackson will. Then Watkins, he's popular because Duran's injured, so Watkins should get very good minutes at the moment. 3 of the next 4 are Leicester, Everton, West Ham, so you could get some very nice points there. If you've got Watkins, that's fine. He's a good player. If you've not got Watkins, personally, I wouldn't recommend getting him. Just make sure you've got Isak, and probably would. And then Raul Jimenez, he has some nice fixtures coming up. He could easily score against Ipswich, West Ham, Leicester, and Man United. But you don't need to worry about not having him. He's not going to hurt you if you don't own him and he does well. But he's only 5.5 million, so that would free up some funds. And then João Pedro, I've marked him as good soon. He's playing Arsenal this game week. Then Ipswich, United, Everton. They're all good fixtures. He's on penalties. He's only 5.7 million. So if your front 3 were Isak, Wood, and then one of the other 4 on this page, that'd be a perfectly good front 4. And you may as well get Raul, João Pedro if you're on a wildcard now, because that'll save you some money. And then the slightly less important forwards, Haaland, he is a good player. He could easily get goals in the next 4 games, but he's so low owned now, he's not going to hurt you if he does well. But if you've got him, you may as well keep him because he's got some nice fixtures coming up. Solanke, he's not that popular at all at the moment. 7.5 million. Newcastle at home, he might get something there. But absolutely, I'd say don't bother buying him. If you've got him and you want to sell him for somebody else, I think that's a completely fair move. But holding him is okay. So Cunha, he's banned for 2 games. But one of those is going to be a cup game. So he's only banned for 1 Premier League game. So if you've got him and you don't need to sell him, i.e. you can afford to keep hold of him for 1 week, he's fine to keep. He's a very, very good forward. The only real downside is he did go off at half-time injured, and we don't know what the injury is or how long that's going to be for. But if he is back for the next game week, then that's going to be all right. And then Havertz, I'd say don't buy him because he was ill last night, so he missed the game. We don't know that he's going to be playing the next game. He's not very popular. I think Jesus is more popular than him, but the reason Havertz is in the system, not Jesus, is earlier in the season Havertz was much, much more popular. It may be next game week I'm going to have to introduce Jesus. We have to see how it goes. But I'd say definitely don't bother buying Havertz. But if you've got him, that's all right. Personally, I'd probably be moving him on though. And then Jamie Vardy, really like Vardy. Just about nobody owned him though. So if he does well, he's not going to hurt your rank if you don't own him. But he's only 5.5 million. And as I mentioned earlier, he's playing Villa this week. So him against Martinez, that could be quite funny. And then Cannon represents any 4.5 million forward who doesn't play and just sits on your bench. We're now going to look at the benching order, first for the keepers and then the other players. This is just my suggestion. If you want to do something different, that's absolutely fine. So the first keeper you see that you've got, I suggest goes on your bench, which means, of course, your other keeper is the one you're playing. And I'm only considering players that are in this system. There are a number of people I know that are strictly following this system and they're only buying the players within this system. And they're doing all right and they're having a nice time in their mini leagues. So any 4 million keeper that doesn't play, of course, they're on your bench. Fabianski's probably not playing. He's on your bench. Then it'd be Henderson, Flecken, Sanchez, Martinez, Pickford, Sales and Raya. As for the other players, the first player you see that you've got, I suggest is position 3 in your bench. The next one, position 2. And the last one, position 1. Rogers suspended, not playing. Cunha suspended, not playing. Then Harwood, Bellis, Greaves. Well, Fast, probably injured, but might not be. So I've put him here just in case he's not injured. Then we've got Winks, Mikalenko, Mazraoui, Aït-Nouri, Byrne, Ahmad, Dibbling, Pedro Porro, Konza, Vardy, João Pedro, Semenyo, Aina, Lewis, Hall, Enzo, Virgil van Dijk, Saliba, Robinson, Fernandes, Solanke, Raul, Vardiel, Gordon, Gabriel, Son, Mbeumo, Luis Diaz, Jackson, Wood and Havertz. Regarding captaincy, I think Salah is probably the best choice and I think he's going to be the most chosen as well. So he's the safest choice to choose as your captain. There has been some talk about, is the game going to get postponed on Sunday? Liverpool against Man United, is the weather going to be bad? At the moment, to me, the untrained eye, I think it's going to go ahead. There's no reason to think the weather's going to be bad. But anyway, Salah, I think, is the safest choice. If before the deadline on Saturday, we've got good reason to think it's postponed. Just make sure you've got a good vice-captain if you're choosing Salah. Other good choices, Palmer could be fine, Isak, Haaland if you still got him, Watkins, or even Trent. Any of those are fine choices for captain and vice-captain. I'd strongly suggest you don't choose two from the same team though. So don't go Salah and Trent. If you don't like two of these, or you don't want to choose two of these, then any of the green midfielders or forwards from the previous page is a perfectly good choice as well. As for the background images game week, I've got a very good friend who's currently ill in hospital. So I asked them, can I do a background image to cheer you up? And they said, it'd be nice to see a pretty nurse and her puppies. So here you go, a pretty nurse with supposed to be a border collie and a cocker spaniel. And there we have it, my thoughts on the players for game week 20. Hopefully it made sense and it give you an idea of what you could be doing for your team so that you'll do all right in your mini leagues. You're not going to win the whole thing, but you hopefully do all right. And that's what this series is all about, just doing all right. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.